that have the potential to transform food systems for better planetary health outcomes. So from our discussion later on, we are going to see what are the initiatives being done on a national level and also global level. And number two, we are going to highlight the key areas in which governments and also industry players and the other stakeholders can take on an active role in accelerating this transition with recognizing the importance of inclusivity among the local communities. And lastly, towards the end of the session, we are going to identify the elements in our future food systems. So again, I would like to strengthen that oftentimes solutions that is applicable on certain contexts might not be applicable on another context, right? So this is where we need a different range of background of speakers here to discuss what are the things that we can be coherent and what are the things that we can come together into a one single solution. Of course, there won't be a utopia model for our food systems, right? So yeah, so let's see what are the things that we can learn from the session and our distinguished speakers here. Yeah, so okay, so just a ice-breaking session. Perhaps I can throw a kickstart question to our speakers here. So maybe Datin and also Amierah or Suzanne, you can take out the question, yeah? Okay. All right. So basically a very simple question, but a multi-dollar answer, right? So how do you perceive the ongoing transformative changes within the food systems, both on a national scale and also global level, and how it contributes to the advancement of sustainability, equity, and resilience? Perhaps our speakers can share a little bit. How do you see our current landscape of our food systems?
Okay, very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Zaeidah from the Ministry of Economy. Iris mentioned just now from Economic Planning Unit. Well, this ministry is actually previously known as the Economic Planning Unit. So now we are named as the Ministry of Economy, and I'm the Director of Agriculture Division. So what we do in the Division of Agriculture, Ministry of Economy, we have just completed our midterm review for the 12 Malaysia plan. So over there, we have outlined what we want to achieve by the year 2030. And this year, hopefully, we will be starting our 13 Malaysia plan for the country. So it's a 5-year plan for the medium-term development planning for the country. All right. For Iris' question just now, it's a good warm-up for this afternoon's session. I'm glad that we have very good representatives of audience here in the hall. What I can say about the transformative changes within the food system. Yeah.
Okay, we have Mr. Mahadhir from MDEC here. Welcome on board. Hello.
Okay. All right. What I can say is that in the food system, we have seen the shocks that we went through during COVID-19.
Yep.
And the issues of food security has been highlighted in many years. Yeah. So the transformation, I think, it's positive, and the government is also taking actions in terms of tackling the issue. So coming from the economics background and also working in the Ministry of Economy, so I cannot run away, Iris, from talking about the supply side and also the demand side. Yeah. So from the supply side, I can say that there's also a shift in practicing a sustainable agriculture in terms of farm management, in terms of the organics that we put in, the inputs. So there's a shift, and we have also highlighted in our midterm review, which I will elaborate later, in terms of the low carbon agriculture. Besides that, we also have addressed the issues of resilience to climate change. So you can see that there's a shift, the transformative shift, and it's given further highlight in the Malaysia plan. On the demand side, the other one is on the demand side. So we can say that on the demand side, you can see there's also a concern in terms of food waste. I think one of our panelists will talk more on the food waste. Yeah, so that's a highlight in terms of our concern on the CO2 emission based on the food waste, and also the promotion of sustainable diets. I can see in the hall here, we have representative from the Ministry of Health. who is in charge of the on the diet side, sustainable diet. So that is also, I can say that it's a transformative changes, and that is doing some positive and hopefully giving positive impacts to the country.
Well done. Thank you so much, Datin, for a very precise open answer to my opening question, right? Yeah, Nadia? Oh, okay, cool. So initially I thought the questions to be appointed to Mr. Mahadhir for being late, but perhaps it's a special request from Suzanne. She would like to give her point of view on how does Suzanne perceive the current transformative changes within our food systems. Over to you, Suzanne. A quick answer from you.
Sure. I think that we're now going to start seeing a big global transformation in food systems, because I think sustainability has become so prevalent, and everyone kind of in the academic world is understanding the impact. So, I mean, this is also in combination with the fact that there is increasing food insecurity around the world because of the consequences of climate change. And the cost of living is going up for many people around the world. So these are problems that do have to be dealt with by every government in the world.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, obviously I come from a food waste background, but there are solutions to both reducing food insecurity and increasing sustainable solutions. So I think that a lot of governments will be, you know, looking at kind of how to reconfigure food systems so that we prevent soils from being eroded, so that we don't use up all the water, and so that, you know, more people can get good food and have good diets. Which is, you know, is very doable if we become more efficient and we focus on how to reconfigure the system that we're currently using.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for giving your point of view coming from an NGO, right? So there must be a balance of opinion between the policymaker and also the people who has been working on the ground, right? So maybe an additional question to Mr. Mahadhir, maybe a punishment to you, yeah? Okay, so how about you? What do you see? How do you see the ongoing transformative system within our food systems? Changes, sorry.
Well, the only thorn among all the roses here. But again, my apologies. Just came out from this post-cabinet meeting.
Okay, no
But
worries.
I think the aspect of transformation, especially digital transformation, maybe I'll move away a bit
Yeah,
from
sure.
an economist point of view.
Yeah.
I'm very much a technologist
Yep.
by design and profession as well. And I do believe strongly in the case to be made for technology and digital being the foundation of a lot of the solutions that we are
Yes.
trying to find today.
Correct.
But without saying that it's the only solution. So the digital transformation that countries or companies or even people are going through are supposed to be addressing some of these issues that we have.
Yeah.
So using digital, we
Yeah.
we look at least three aspects of it.
Okay.
I think coming from sustainability, we spoke a bit on the aspect of what do you call that? Aspect of ensuring
Yeah.
that not only by going green, but rather, I think the idea of managing and optimizing the resources that we have. They are all limited, and by the use of certain technology or moving towards and transforming towards digital, I think we're using what we call as smart farming or precision farming or whatever it is, agriculture.
Okay.
That talks about the use of soil, the use of pesticides where applicable, and how you want to be able to use that. The other side of this is more on the resilient side. I think building that and building capability in terms of harnessing the technologies that we have and being able to ensure that we know what to do and how to operate with technology and taking advantage of transforming the conventional agriculture, for example, to embracing technology and working with technology. So technology, just like any other new things,
Yeah.
shouldn't be an enemy. Rather, I think you just absorb that
Complement. Okay.
and then adapt
Okay.
accordingly to that. Does
Okay,
that
cool.
satisfy
Yeah,
get me
out
of the
of my
punishment?
expectation. Yeah. Oh, very good punishment, positive enforcement. Okay, so cool. I think it's getting interesting because coming from different background, different school of thought, right? So perhaps we start our session, a very good pembuka bicara, very good starting for our session on how actually the current food systems is transforming. So we have the current food systems, but we are also envisioning the potential that we are having in the future within the food systems. So maybe I will pass the floor to our friend here, Miss Amierah. She has been working with WWF for 9 years, and I think she could be sharing a lot of very valuable insights for us, particularly coming from a perspective of NGO. Right. So maybe I think the first question to Amierah, right? I think you could share us some video here, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So maybe you could start your sharing by sharing that how maybe as an advocate for sustainable food consumption, right? What are the key challenges that you see in shifting consumer consumption behavior towards a more environmentally friendly and healthy food choices? And probably what are the strategies that you could recommend? Yep, over to you, Amierah.
Thank you so much, Iris. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Amierah. I'm from WWF Malaysia. So my focus area of work is on food. I mean, weirdly, I'm under the marine program of WWF Malaysia. Initially, I started my work on sustainable seafood consumption. And then later on throughout the years, my work branches out to looking at food systems holistically, looking at sustainable food production, food consumption, and also food waste management. So for my team specifically, we're currently looking at food consumption and also food waste management, which I'm also sharing with my fellow colleague and partner, and also working together with the Lost Food Project.
Okay.
Right. So I think before I answer your question, maybe we can share with the audience one video that I would like to share with everyone.
Okay. So we will be playing a short video to wake everyone's up. All right.
Nice.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Okay. So perhaps, Amierah, you could elaborate a little bit based on the video on what you have been doing and perhaps how could it relate to our transformative food systems today?
Sure. Thanks, Iris. So based on the video that you all have watched just now, so we are looking at the great food puzzle, which is basically what we are trying to address today, transforming the food systems so, it can be positively impacting both humans and nature. So back on the question that you were mentioning earlier about the key challenges first in transforming sustainable consumption to a more environmentally friendly, more healthier diets, especially from the Malaysian context, which I'm currently looking at with my team. So I think maybe I can just highlight a few key challenges based on myself and my team's experience. So number one, in terms of the challenge that we look at is that the term consumer itself. So I think even, I myself made this mistake back in a few years when I just started our work on consumer engagement. So we see this consumer as just this one ideal group that we want to target and we want to, engage and do all the good things that we want to transform them to do more responsible behaviors and practices. But actually, as we delve down into engaging this consumer that we see as a group, there are actually many types of consumers, many different layers. So for example, for us, we living in an urban setting, in an urban situation, our food choices and our preferences, our lifestyle is entirely different compared to those who live in the coastal areas.
All right.
So for example, even as simple as in my office, WWF, we were trying to do this a little internal campaign that we wanted to just give a little awareness to all of our staff to, remember to consume seafood more responsibly, not to eat shark fin, not to eat rays because they are now almost extinct. So we were thinking, okay, how do we, share this with all of our staff who are in or living in urban areas and also coastal areas? So this is suddenly it becomes a challenge because when we delve down into the many layers of these different groups, then definitely it becomes a challenge. But it's not impossible. I think even based on our experience as well, what we can do is one of the things is having a very highly tailored strategy to engage these different types of consumers. So for example, you want to target a group of students, university students. You want to target millennial mothers. You want to target working youth, for example. So, understanding their food preferences, understanding their motivations, their challenges, and then we work from there. So for example, in a university setting that we have now, one of the motivation could possibly be, okay, students are very prone to saving costs, right? They're students, they don't have enough money. For example, maybe there could be a campaign that targets around for example, a 10 ringgit for a healthy plate challenge a day. For example. So that's one thing, that's one challenge. The other one that we see is within the Malaysian context is that unfortunately, our food culture, we don't exactly practice healthy consumption, healthy.
This is what we just discussed right
Exactly.
before the session, right?
Healthy consumption, healthy diets. We are, I mean, we had this conversation. I mean, me and my team with my boss, right? It's like we are starting to look at, excessive food consumption. We have this, we just recently celebrated Eid, Ramadan was over, and you see Ramadan buffets. You have like 200 dishes being offered in Ramadan buffets and all that. And you have this, suddenly there's a surge of things like seafood being, spread all over the table, shell out. That's the word. And all these things. So we are starting to look at all this excessiveness of consuming food. And another one is indulgent. We are looking at indulging foods. I don't know, is it some kind of like a self-care, self-healing thing, you know, after work, you're tired and you just want to
Reward,
eat something nice, you
self-reward,
want to
yeah.
go to a
Yeah.
cafe or something, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so those are the kind of challenges that we see, which is very different compared to 30 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For example, I had this one conversation with my boss, and what she said was actually pretty mind-blowing. She's like, you know, we have, for example, here in Malaysian culture, we have everything needs to have cheese on top of it. So you have like, you have like banana fritter cheese, you have like matcha tea with cheese, you have like keropok leko with cheese, everything.
So cheesy.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have this 30 years ago, you know,
Exactly.
how did cheese and dairy suddenly became like part of our diet?
Yeah.
Yeah, so things like this poses a challenge. So I think in terms of the strategies that we can look on, I think look into existing strategies, existing initiatives. I think one of the best things that I've seen or that I have also adapted is our Ministry of Health's Suku Separuh half, quarter half campaign, which I actually tried and it worked. I lost 8 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah, it really
Kudos
works,
to
guys.
PKM.
Yeah.
Kudos to the ministry.
So yeah, that really works. And I think that really, we should definitely elevate that up and upscale that. And also, I think there needs to be more research on the healthier diets that our forefathers, our grandfathers used to practice. You know, they practice, they eat all this different kind of plants, where we say local terms, ulam-ulaman, boiled, you know, soups and all that. I think we should go back to our traditions, our older practices, and see where we can rehype that to current situation, current lifestyles.
Agree.
And yeah, I think we can definitely work from there. Look at also foods that are not popular right now, local foods also, while promoting those local foods which are already forgotten, also support the local farmers who are actually cultivating it, support sustainable production around it, those kind of things. So those are the two challenges. Can I add a third one?
Yeah, sure. But before you add, right, just kudos to the organizer. Okay, because when you share your experience on the challenges you face along your work, right?
Yeah.
I think it has to start somewhere. And
Definitely.
right, just now we had the lunch, right? It's a plant-based burger with I think a sustainable recycled box, which I think the organizer has, you know, you walk the talk, you walk the example by serving this kind of food for us. And I also recall that many years ago, I read an article. It's about the Ministry of Environment in France. They actually banned meat product on any government official dinner or lunch or meal. So they walk the talk, they exemplify the policy that they are imposing. Yeah. So I think these are the things that we need to look at a macro level. Yeah. So perhaps you can share your third challenge.
Thanks, Iris.
Yeah.
So I guess just to share, the last challenge that we see is that accessibility of environmentally friendly, nature-friendly foods. So for example, when I was working on seafood back then, so what we did was we were trying to promote to consumers on certified sustainable seafood. And then, you know, when we tell people, oh, okay, you need to consume certified seafood because it's sustainable, it's responsibly harvested, yada, yada. And then people were like, oh, okay, great. So where we can get them? And then we were like, oh, yeah. So that's why then we realized that, okay, it's not out there in the market. So what we actually did was on the production team, then we started working on seafood improvement projects. So we work with the nelayan, the fishermen, the fish people, the fish producers. Yeah. We work with aquaculture producers so that they could harvest and produce fish more responsibly, so that they can feed the domestic market.
Correct.
So that's one. And when we talk about accessibility as well, we talk about the business side, because the businesses within the market is the market who is introducing all these different products so that consumers are able to access them, right?
Yep.
So when we work with businesses, we do see that they are not exactly interested in offering or selling nature-friendly products is because, of course, businesses, they are profit-driven, that's no doubt. And also, it's not a priority for them. There's no regulations currently that says that you
For
have to
enforcement,
be
so.
or you have to offer environmentally sustainable products. But I think this poses a new challenge and a new opportunity for us to actually work with them. So one of the things that we realize is that work with their priorities, right? So of course, their priority is profit, number one, and number two is cost cutting.
Livelihood.
So
Yeah.
everything need to cut costs.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that we actually tried to do and currently we're doing is that we work with them to reduce food waste so that, when they prevent food waste from happening, they can ultimately reduce waste management costs. And then with that extra money, then could then,
Regenerate.
channel into buying more environmentally
Yeah.
nature-friendly
Okay,
products.
okay.
little tongue twisted, yeah.
Thanks, Amierah. So I'm just curious, out of my mind, right? So of all the challenges that you have mentioned, right, it's hard for me to think of a successful example that WWF could actually demonstrate to the world or to a national or to a global level that this is the good model, this is the good example for us to address this 1, 2, 3 challenge. Could you share a little bit? What are the examples that actually deemed to be successful? And yeah.
Okay, thanks, Iris. I think when it comes to consumption, it can be a little tricky. And this is something that internally within my team that we recognize as well. Because, for example, talking about fish again. So, for example, if we want to know about how much fish stocks are left in the oceans, we can do like a stock assessment. It's very easy, very straightforward. But when it comes to human behaviors, how that translates into impact on nature, then how do we do that? So, for example, if we tell people to reduce food waste within the Klang Valley, how does that translate to less carbon emissions being emitted from the landfill in Kajang, for example? So I think this is something that we are working on. I'm very fortunate to have contact with the Sunway Planetary Health Center and also the Lost Food Project. We're currently looking at this on how do we develop this kind of matrix. So thank you. Yeah. So despite all this, maybe I can share just one project that we did before, which involves a lot of multiple stakeholders. So we had this Bazaar Ramadan project that we did back in 2021.
Maybe just a definition of bazaar in Malaysian context is the
Ramadan.
market. Yeah.
Ramadan Bazaar. So
Market, right?
So it's like a night market kind of concept, but everybody sells food basically because it's during Ramadan. And then, before we break fast for the Muslims, then usually all these Ramadan bazaars will be almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And
it's Malaysian culture?
yeah, definitely. Every Ramadan. So people would just go to the bazaars and just buy food for them to break fast.
Yep.
So one of the big key issues during Ramadan bazaars is that there's a lot of waste, right? So especially coming from the food vendors who couldn't sell their food. So what happens to the food? So that's why we collaborated with this youth NGO. It's called Pemuda Gema. So they have been initiating this almost every year, where they compile all of the food that is not sold from the food vendors and channel them to those in need.
Okay.
So we partner with them, we collaborated with them, and we worked with the city council at that time. It was MBSA, Majlis Pembadaran Shah Alam. And we did it for about 2 weeks during in one of the Ramadan bazaars, where we engage with the food vendors. We tell them, okay, the food that you cannot sell, those excess food, just give it to us, and then we will repack it and rechannel it to those in need within the area.
Okay.
So we did that, and we also partner with other stakeholders like Mardi from the ministry, and then from definitely from the city councils and also others. So That was very.
It was a success.
It was a success. It was successful that we had media incoming. They were interviewing the city councils on the good job that we are doing.
Okay.
And so that was the first year. We collaborated with the city council, and then the following year, the city council decided to run it on their own.
Oh, okay.
So we were just there to support them.
Okay.
And then by the third year, they just and so forth. This is the fourth year running. They just completely run it on their own. So the main point here is that it's a challenge. It will always be a challenge, but I think if any of us wants to start something, just remember that we are not alone.
Yeah.
Just work within the circle of your work area. Find your city council, find your local NGO, find even relevant government agencies, find and gather together, discuss on the work that every one of you are aligned with, and then just collaborate and work.
Okay, cool.
Work towards that, and
Agree.
hopefully from there you have a pilot, and then therefore you can upscale once it's successful and get the media in as well.
So it has to start somewhere, even though it's challenging and it's hard to achieve what you are aiming for, right? So again, you shared a lot about food waste management among the local communities, right? So maybe a quick one to Suzanne. Are you there, Suzanne?
I'm here. Yes, I
Okay,
can.
cool. Just a quick one, Suzanne, because I just want to gauge your opinion, because Amierah dealt a lot with food waste, right? So from my understanding, Suzanne, you deal a lot from the another end, at the productions end, which is the food loss, right? So perhaps a quick commentary from Suzanne. How do you see a linkage between your work in the Lost Food Project and also the work from WWF, like what Amierah has been doing?
Sure. Well, I think that, if you look at the last and perhaps most important UN SDG is partnerships. It's stakeholders working together, because we're all like a piece of the jigsaw, and we can only achieve a small amount unless we pull together, both with ideas, with manpower, with resources, with funding. So we've found that, so many universities that we've worked with, different government organizations that we've combined with, and obviously NGOs. We've done a lot of work with WWF. I mean, they've done an increasing amount in the last few years on food systems, actually, particularly fisheries. I have to say, I think they're exceptionally strong on the fisheries in particular. But also, there's so many aspects to food systems. You've got the whole biodiversity, the contribution to climate change. So there's so many different elements, and one NGO or one government department can't do everything. So unless we work together, we will achieve very little. So it's about not being competitive, realizing that we're all in this together, and how best can we support each other.
Okay, cool. Short and sweet one. Thanks so much, Suzanne. So perhaps after hearing from WWF and a little bit commentary from Suzanne from the NGO perspective, perhaps now we will move to Datin, Zaeidah, from the perspective of Malaysian government. Perhaps Datin, you could also share us some of the perspective from a governance angle, right? Because we have NGO, and also we could have some policymaker from the governance perspective. So Datin, maybe I will pose to you the first question, right? Maybe you could start to share with us in terms of the entry point from the Malaysian context, and how does Malaysian current policy framework actually support the transition towards a more sustainable and resilient food systems?
Thank you, Iris. I think, can we put up the slides? Yeah, thank you. All right. From the Ministry of Economy, we have outlined our policy stand for the country in the agriculture sector through our midterm review of the 12 Malaysia plan, in which in the midterm review, we have, all right, thanks, Amierah. Next one. Okay. We have put up 3 themes for the development plan for the remaining 1 year. One of it is actually advancing sustainability. So agriculture is not an exclusion to the sustainability agenda. And the policy enabler we have already outlined 4. developing future talent, which includes also agriculture, accelerating technology, which MDEC is also a good partner to our agenda. Enhancing connectivity and transport infrastructure may not be directly related to the agriculture, but it's actually in the food system where you have the logistic, and also strengthening the public service. So along that line, in our policy setting, we have also address some of the challenges in the agriculture sector, because we cannot be, dissecting the challenges from the way forward. So we know that the agriculture sector is facing with the absence of a centralized and digitalized farmers database, which we have already tackled the issue. So we will have a agriculture census this year, just to collect data on the farmers. So it will be a very holistic census in the agriculture. It was last done, mind you, in the last 18 years.
It's
So
you already.
it's a very long overdue census for the agriculture sector. So we'll be collecting data in terms of the number of farmers, what are their activities, and then their literacy in terms of technology. So everything will be covered in the agriculture census. Next is on the lack of technology adoption in controlling high post-harvest losses. This is one of the areas. MDEC is a good partner, so we work hand in hand in terms of promoting the technology in agriculture. Low carbon financing is also a challenge, as much as the limited farm size for economies of scale. Amierah just now talked about, getting started, getting the economies of scale. Next is what we mentioned in the midterm review is on the agriculture land. While we have a good size of agriculture land available in our country, but it is not yet at full capacity. We have a lot of, we call it the permanent food production areas. It is not yet fully utilized. It's only at 75%, if I'm not mistaken. So we have already put a target in the midterm review. So in the agriculture sector, we have to capitalize the land as much as we need to also leverage on the technology so that we can improve the productivity and also the yield. So for the midterm review, there are many initiatives that we want to do, but what I would like to highlight here to share with the audience, I think we have a good representative from the local as well as the international. We promote a lot of the high growth, high value agriculture sector, agriculture industry. So what we want to do under the high growth, high value initiative is first is on the encouraging private investment in the agriculture sector to accelerate adoption of technology. So we can't be doing it alone. So we need to also invite the private sector to entice themselves into producing agriculture. Then we also have the developing low carbon agriculture model. So we've been working with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. We'll be piloting one with World Bank in the paddy sector. So this is one of the pilots that we're doing in the low carbon agriculture, while it has been practiced elsewhere, but from the government initiative, we are working with the World Bank. The third one is on the expansion of people initiative, income initiatives, which I think I will elaborate further later, and diversification of agriculture-based industry. So this is what we called also, maybe Amierah would be more interested, for the agriculture-based industry in terms of the food consumption. Iris mentioned just now on the plant-based burger. So these are the things that we must not lose sight of the technology and also the transformation that is happening in our food system. Okay, further to that, we talk about the food transformation, and globally we are measured in terms of our food security. So just now I had a chat with one of the audience here, when it comes to food security, are we secured? What comes to most people's mind is actually on the supply side. Are we getting enough? So that is only one dimension in food security. So when we talk about food security, in my mind, instantly it will cover 6 dimensions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's about the supply, it's about the
Access.
accessibility or affordability, it's about the quality, it's about the sustainability, it's
Yep.
also about the agency and the governance. So these are some of the measurements that we need to look at when we talk about food security. And how do we fare in Malaysia? Yeah. So this, when we dissect or we do the anatomy of the food security, so these are the scores where Malaysia is ranked. The one in red is where we should be giving our focus. Yeah, and unfortunately, we have 2 rates under the sustainability and adaptation dimension. So one is about water, and another one is about the political commitment to adaptation. So these are the areas that we need to look at. So perhaps in the 13 Malaysia plan, this could be a good foundation for us to look again in the 13 Malaysia plan, where should we be given the focus in terms of the agriculture sector. All right, so I think I will stop up to there, Iris. Perhaps later we can talk more on the people's initiative.
Yeah. So just a quick question, not a quick question, maybe just a quick a picture lah. So I perceive that a strong policy and very solid policy framework will actually maneuver the country's direction towards a very strong food systems, right? So just now you mentioned about perhaps MDEC, right, Mr. Mahadhir, as a very strong partner to the ministry, right? So maybe from a governance perspective, this question posed to Mr. Mahadhir, do you think what kind of needs, what are the needs, what type of needs that organization or corporation like MDEC needs from the policy and the governance end? What are the needs that usually would help to accelerate the initiatives that you are currently embarked on?
Well, the thing about this is that when you look at central ministries and agencies as well, there are studies, there are stock taking exercise happening throughout the year, throughout the Malaysian plans themselves, much like this, to assess the kinds of interventions, the impact of those interventions and assistance, and also what else can we do next. So with regards to MDEC's role here is that while we are the so-called implementing agency with respect to this, and the mandate that we look at it is very much on how do we push the digitalization agenda to the rest of the sectors. Because the much bigger side of this thing is that as we have changed governments over the years, what remains a constant is that digital is not something that we should do away with or should be low on the agenda. So, which is extremely good. So it helps, I think, a lot of ministries and agencies to actually do that. So as we bring digitalization to this, we have to also understand and do similar exercises in terms of where each of the industry or the sector that requires a bit more intervention, a bit more assistance, a bit more funding, maybe awareness, maybe it's just the drive from the policy side to say, no, we have to stop doing it like this, let's do it this way. And that's the only way moving forward.
Policy drive.
Yeah. So I hear about food wastage over there, and I cringe at that thought. We were just having side discussions as well about the need to go to the bazaar and things like that. The awareness of having moderation throughout anything that we do, and the education of that builds or basically is a foundation to many things and many issues that we see as a problem today. And I think last night at the gala dinner, Tan Sri Jeffrey showed the donut economy. It was just basically something that we saw, again, something that could be based very much on the UN SDG itself, but not hitting the ceiling and achieving where that safe space for humanity to thrive. Similarly, digitalization is also somewhere there. You don't want to be too digital that you have
Yeah,
no
to
intervention
strike
at
a
all.
balance. Yeah.
So we want to be able to see how else can we help.
Mm.
And the thing about this, and I'm a big transformation guy, honestly.
Yeah.
In my previous life or whatever it is, it's always making small changes to see where we are
Mm-hmm.
and adjusting to it, or making drastic ones
Mhm.
when the situation calls for it.
Mm.
So when we look at something like this, we see that agriculture is somewhere in the middle, generally within the stock taking exercise or the assessment and evaluation that we do
Mm.
at MDEC. So we need to be able to translate
Mm.
that back to the central ministries
The
and say that
governments.
how else can we improve this?
Yeah.
If I were to take this away from, say, climate change and the food security and food issues, example that we are looking at is e-commerce.
Yeah.
Again, numbers were just through the roof
Yeah.
because of MCO and COVID.
Correct.
So the intervention that we did then during COVID, and I was at MOF at that point,
Mm.
was to encourage all these offline businesses to get online and sell there, because that's
E-commerce. Yeah.
where you will get your businesses. No one is going out, for example.
Yeah.
But the kind of assistance that we gave during that couple of years
Mhm.
may not be applicable today.
Okay. Yeah. It needs
Example.
to go.
So we need to be
Yeah.
able to change. So while
Yeah.
I subscribe a lot to the developmental plan with 5 years, and I think congratulate the Ministry of Economy for the midterm review to be
Mhm.
able to see maybe we need to tweak this a bit
Okay.
with regards to that.
Okay.
But the voice of the farmers, the voice of the industry players, and especially the supply side,
Yeah.
tech supply side, which we are looking at, would be the kind of things that we do through industry engagements, and that's
Mhm.
where we bring them to the ministries, whether it's
Correct.
my ministry, central ministry, and the likes, so
Mhm.
that it's more balanced.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
engaging directly, there's always complaint, especially if you
Yeah.
go to Twitter Jaya today, everything is
Correct. It needs to be
just not good.
multilateral, yeah.
Whatever that you do, as far as the government is concerned, oh, this is not good, that is not good. It's
Mhm.
all complained one way to the government, and I think
Mm.
there must be a sense of moderation, and that's where we step in to ensure
Mhm.
that sometimes what you're asking for is just not doable at all,
Yeah.
because it affects the other side of the community, the other side of the society, and the likes. So I think it's a very long answer to say that we do a bit of moderation. We
Yeah.
do a lot of industry engagement
Yeah.
together, and just like any other agency out there,
Mhm.
and we bring that to the real policymakers to see how we can improve moving forward.
So it really reflects a very strong multilateral engagement, right? Not to say sometimes we think that certain communities or certain systems they need this particular technology, but in fact it might not, right? So sometimes, because currently I'm also doing a study on food security, so at certain area, right, we think that they need this technology, but when we really talk to the farmers, they will tell us a bunch of answers that why they think they don't need, or what do they actually need. So I think the real voices should become from the ground, but supplemented or complemented by the policy, strong policy framework lah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahadhir. So perhaps the second part of Datin's presentation and sharing, right? We are also curious to understand, right, Datin? Maybe you could elaborate a little bit from your earlier statement, right? You would like to share a little bit on collaborative efforts of the Malaysian government currently have, or perhaps both on not only on local scale, and also some that we could possibly bring to a global scale.
Right. Okay, thank you, Iris. On the collaboration, we have started our People's Income Initiative
Yeah.
last year. So far we have actually approved about more than 1,000 acres of land.
Mhm.
Imagine prior to that initiative, 1,000 acres of land is just lying idle,
Mhm.
nothing produced. So with the People's Income Initiative, or it's better known as IPR Intan, Initiative Usahawan Tani.
Mhm.
So we have leverage on this 1,000 acres of land, in which the participants of these projects are actually from the poverty group.
Yeah.
From the poverty group. Some of them, or most of them, have no background in agriculture. practices.
yeah.
They don't know how to farm, they don't know how to plant. But with the collaboration with the anchor companies, they have managed to transfer technology. They have managed to increase the skills of these poverty group people to start planting. Yeah. And the crops that we look at is the ones that we have low self-sufficiency level and also high import dependency ratio. So where we can produce locally. So it also helps in terms of reducing the carbon footprint because you produce locally, so you don't have to import all this. So here we have we put up two examples. One is in the Ulu Kinta, Perak. This is about 30 acres of land planted with chili and also eggplant. Some of the participants here are from the Orang Asli group. I think about the indigenous people. I think about 25% of our participants are from that group. So they work there. They become the participants and they start to earn income. So our target is actually, besides producing food, we also want them to be out of the poverty line. So they must, this anchor company will have to ensure that the farmers will get at least 2,000 a month. Okay. So they have actually harvested the first cycle of chili and they're very happy that they get the money as much as they also get the skill. With this project also, Iris, we have collaboration with the Ministry of Human Resources, whereby the participants in this project will get the third level certificate. Sijil Tahap 3, they call it in Malay, for the agriculture. So they don't have to attend any formal education to get the certification. So they just go in the farm, work there, and get themselves certified with all these training modules. Yeah? The second one that we have here is actually in Tambunan, Sabah. Over here, they plant grain corn. Yeah? I went there in Tambunan, Sabah. It's a bit remote. It's very far from the city center, from Kota Kinabalu. And to reach at the site, I had to cross 2 hanging bridges. So it was a very interesting journey.
It's a remote area.
It's a remote area. And the farmers there, when I went there, they were not, they are very much away from technology. They have the handphones, but they only use it just for chats and calls. Yeah. But with the project, they actually use their own handphones to market their produce. Yeah. So the anchor there is a cooperative. So the cooperative teach them how to use the handphones and download the apps, use the apps to sell their produce and also to get income. You know, they have the e-wallet there. And also to buy their daily needs, something like rice, oil, cooking oil, and also vegetables. Also, it's sold in the apps. So they actually have improved their literacy in terms of technology. Yeah. So I was so impressed to see all these as older as I am. They were toggling with their handphones and they were amazed at how technology can help them. They don't have to go to the market to buy all their daily needs. They only need to download the apps and then buy all the things from the apps. So they're very happy. Yeah. So these are some of the examples the ministry has initiated, in terms of the collaboration. So the selection of anchor company is very important. So we want them to have the collaboration. We want them to have the expertise and also the technology transferred to them. And by end of year 2 of this program, we hope that these participants will graduate and they will end up, opening up new areas for their own practice, for their own activity.
So Datin, do you think this anchor company model actually suitable to be applied in different level? And is this the only solution to to empower the local farmers and local communities?
Well, this is not the only solution, Iris. This is only one of the solutions that we look at. It's a two-pronged strategy. While you tackle the issues of availability of food, you also tackle the issues of poverty. This is one of the examples that perhaps can be emulated by other agencies and also NGOs. Over here, we have economies of scale, where you start small and then you just emulate the same model throughout the country. In Ulu Kinta, is actually the farm size is quite big. It's more than 10 acres, 30 acres. But in Tambunan, Sabah, the size is a bit small. And it's the land belongs to the participants. So we give grants to them. This is much like a community-based farming. So there are a lot of ways to do it. Iris, this is only one of the many ways to do it.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. So maybe just to give our audience a picture. So Ulu Kinta is in Perak, right? It's at the northern area in Malaysia, and while Sabah is at it's Malaysia. Yeah. So thank you very much, Datin, for your very clear and explanation on and envisioning how Malaysian government has been addressing not only the availability of food, but also addressing that how we want to tackle the food accessibility and food affordability among the vulnerable individuals, right? So yeah, so perhaps we can take a pause here and we can go into a very quick Q&A session. Okay, it's already afternoon. So a Q&A session, and maybe we can have our questions posted on Slido. And yeah, okay, cool. So is Slido still working? Yeah. Okay, so maybe you can scan the QR code on your tag, right, Nadia? Okay, the tag here, and then you can post your questions, any questions that you think you would like to ask, and also to understand not only in the Malaysian context, but how we want to bring all the local solution to address our global issues within our food systems. So maybe I trust that all of you coming from a different background and different expertise, perhaps also not a question, maybe you could share your comments and your opinion to us as well. Yeah. So we can share the your questions or comments on the Slido, and then we can engage with each other. Is it accessible, the code QR? Can. Okay, I think it's afternoon. Everyone is so quiet. Okay, any question in? Yeah. Okay. So Suzanne, you are still there, right? I'm just afraid she's not there. So for our questions, any speakers, you are feel free to answer. I think we can also exchange our opinion here with the audience. Yeah. Okay, cool. So while we are waiting for questions or comments coming into the Slido, perhaps we can have our gentleman here. You have a questions for us?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. So I'm looking at it in the equity perspective. So how do, in this transformation of health system, how do we ensure that food insecurity is not impacted or exacerbated for the vulnerable population? And how are we ensuring that no one is left behind? I'm looking at it at the user point perspective and not the whole spectrum of it. Because as you know, food insecurity for vulnerable population is already very severe, and it is very impacted for them, especially the marginalized and those in the B40. So as you were mentioning about the circular economy, so it is sort of a rebranding of indigenous and traditional practices. And how are we incorporating that into this food insecurity transformation and ensuring that it is localized into the context of the community itself and not because everyone is doing it. And as you know, global health, there is a movement of decolonization. So in terms of food security, is that something that that they are looking into to ensure that local practices are actually incorporated and local communities are actually engaged into the system itself. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for your questions. I think it's a very valid questions, and it's something that we should not be overlooking, especially in terms of the policy making and framework. So any one of our speakers here would like to take up the question on how we are going to be as inclusive as we can and to address to ensure that in all the policy or in all the changes that we make, we do not sideline, we do not overlook equity and also equality, especially for the underprivileged communities. Anyone would like to take up the answer? Okay. Okay.
I hold the mic, you want to pass to me. Right, that is a very good observation. Yeah? We know that, I know that from the statistic, the most vulnerable group, yeah, the B40, they actually spend more on food. And from the statistic also, it shows that Malaysians spend more on food away from home. So again, it goes back to affordability. Yeah, it goes back to the consumption behavior. In terms of inclusivity, yeah, as much as possible, we try to engage, the agriculture sector, not only to tackle or to focus on the rural areas and also the rural farmers. We also want to engage the urban farming, Iris, so that the agriculture sector is not only focused at a certain pockets of the society. Yeah, so we have policies that we want to promote the agriculture sector throughout the country. So it's not only focused at the rural areas and also to the vulnerable groups. Yeah. For the IPR Intan project that we do in the Ministry of Economy, so we're not only focusing on the rural areas, but we also do the urban farming. Yeah, we have projects in Petaling Jaya where we leverage on the land beneath the transmission line, so that the urban poor can also be incorporated in the agriculture activities.
Okay.
Inclusivity is a main focus in our policy making in the Ministry of Economy. So thank you for the question.
Okay, cool. I think thanks, Datin. I think this is something that we ought to ponder. Sometimes the underprivileged is not in the rural and the remote area, but also we have a lot of very vulnerable individuals in the urban setting. And this is also where I think active society member like NGOs comes in, and we really need to work hand in hand. So sometimes we really need to advocate for a very strong partnership, because I talk a lot with NGOs and they have very good accessibility to the pockets of the society. So this is where the government actually, regardless of Malaysian government or in the bigger scale, we really need to acknowledge and also understand that we need to merge, we need to come into a collective action, because NGOs, they work on the ground, and we perhaps the ministry or the policymakers, they have more manpower in terms of the resources and so on. Yeah, so thank you very much for the question. And perhaps we can go into Slido, and we have, I think, 4 questions here, right? Perhaps I will read the questions here, yeah? So we have 4 questions here. Let me see. Okay, 5 questions. Okay, it's okay. So I will read the first questions, right? Are there any use cases for carbon finance? I think this is very obviously, Mr. Mahadhir, you have any experience on this?
Wow, I think not directly. It doesn't fall within what we're looking at the moment.
Okay.
So I think
Datin
not so
again?
sure whether
Or maybe a quick one lah, if you know
may
any.
not be applicable
Yeah.
here though, because aspects of this, especially on carbon finances, goes beyond my agency and my pay grade as well, unfortunately. But I think with aspect of this, if I'm not mistaken, MITI would be looking at some of the activities and also funding with regards to carbon and decarbonization, and related to ESG as well. So that would be much of a topic that is more relatable to them.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much, Mr. Mahadhir. I think the reason why I select this question is because this is something that we ought to bring out. Because I think decarbonization in terms of, even though carbon GSG, greenhouse emission, is not the main contributor in agriculture, but I think this is also something that we need to really look into, especially when it comes to food systems. Okay, so I think there are 3 other questions here, but we are quite running out of time before we go to the third speaker. I think I will just keep the questions first, and then I will give the floor to our third speaker here. Mr. Mahadhir, you again. Okay, so maybe we'll proceed with your part lah, yeah. Maybe you can give a quick introduction on what Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation is doing, and perhaps I understood, I was told that you will be sharing a lot about agricultural technology, right? So we look forward to your sharing.
Okay. Well, the thing about this is a lot has been said, especially by Datin as well, in terms of the effort by the government to actually help whether the marginalized, and also to be more inclusive with regards to their participation in the food industry. If you may. Oh, okay. I only have a couple of slides anyway. But the thing about this is we do have one project that is not coming. Oh, video first. Okay, sorry, let's play the video first.
Hai, apa khabar? Saya Amierah Effendi. Mungkin korang kenal saya sebagai seorang pelakon filem. Tapi sebenarnya saya seorang usahawan tani. Yang tadi itu wayang je. Korang nak tahu tak banyak masalah yang dihadapi oleh usahawan-usahawan tani kita. Jadi hari ini saya akan kongsikan dengan korang semua. Jom ikut saya. Saya cukup faham masalah yang dihadapi oleh industri kita. Contohnya dalam bidang peladangan. Macam Cik Kumar tu. Apa dia buat tengah-tengah padang tu? Hai, saya Kumar. Saya sini mari hari-hari. Hujan ke, panas ke, saya sini juga mari. Hari-hari tau. Hei, kerjalah. Kerja.
Hei, tak ada air ni. Kering ni. Alah.
Sedih kan? Itu baru satu. Kalau bidang peternakan pula. Jom, kita tengok Cik Ali. Kurang makan ni. Saya Ali. Perlu explain ke? Tak cukup makan pula. Leceh kan? Tak apa, tu baru sikit. Jom kita beralih ke bidang perikanan pula.
Ada amnia, bos.
Amnonia? Kenapa ada amnonia?
Alah. Ada harga. Bos. Ada harga, bos.
Ada apa ni, Puan? Ada apa lagi?
Ada harga.
Iya, kenapa banyak sangat ini alga ni? Hai. Saya Aceng. Saya penternak ikan. Macam ni dah kehidupan saya. Oh iya. Wakai isyalah. Jawapan. Hai. Macam-macam hal kan? Jadi macam mana sebenarnya untuk kita meladang lagi mudah? Kenapa dia jalan itu macam? Digital AgTech dengan internet kebendaan. Korang boleh pasang peranti di ladang untuk memantau keadaan tanah kebun korang. Banyak bagus, Sebab tu kita pasang benda ni. Inisiatif ini diperkuat dengan sistem kecerdasan buatan untuk membantu meningkatkan mutu dan ketepatan hasil tuaian secara menyeluruh. Analisis data raya juga membantu menganalisis data secara berstruktur dan berupaya mempercepatkan pengeluaran hasil tanaman.
Tak rumit ke nak guna benda ni?
Borhan, Digital AgTech ni sangat mudah. Dah ada 15 projek rintis dengan lebih 1,500 usahawan tani yang dilatih. Usahawan tani memperoleh 20% peningkatan produktiviti, 20% peningkatan pendapatan dan 30% pengurangan kos operasi.
Oh, kalau macam tu kan, saya ni dah bersemangat sangat ni. Macam mana ni?
Borhan, sabar Borhan. Dengar betul-betul. Jadi, Borhan kena guna Digital AgTech ni. Baru memudahkan urusan kita sebagai usahawan tani ni.
Okay. Right. Well, basically, that's our way of actually summarizing one of the projects, again funded especially by the Ministry of Economy, and where we partnered the Ministry of what do you call that, Agriculture and Food Security, to ensure that we get this message out. We have scaled that project to now more than 500 sites all over Malaysia, impacting at least 26,000 farmers across this. We touch on 3 areas. There's what do you call that? Crops, livestock, and also fisheries. But we have only begun with crops so far. So chilies is one of them. That remains one of the top import items, food items that Malaysia has at the moment. And it's giving and touching this in a few areas. One, I think Datin mentioned about looking at the B40, another form of income and the aspect of inclusivity, as we mentioned, for them to be able to gain a bit more from this particular aspect and where we are heading towards digitalization. Second part is on the education and also awareness in terms of that the community of Malaysia, and if I can be a bit more critical about that, is we have become, unfortunately, a society of consumers. So it cuts across a lot of industries. So at least within tech, what we are trying to demonstrate was the fact that we can create solutions. We can influence the outcome of many things through digital, because that is the great leveler, as we would normally say. If today we are talking about digital economy, I think tomorrow we are already saying that digital is the economy. So everyone goes digital, it allows for an equitable access to quite a number of things that we can do. So that is where we are aiming from. And lastly is about innovation within the sector itself, where we move from conventional and traditional ways of doing agriculture, farming, livestock, and managing that, as you can see and demonstrated by this, it is something that we can build with the other companies. And these are created by companies that MDEC has been entrusted to develop. We have always been working on the supply side as far as the, what do you call that, the tech companies that we have to develop. So almost today, 30 years into existence, as far as MDEC as an agency, we have built close to 4,000 companies that can provide a myriad of solutions where adoption can happen and where innovation can leverage on. So this is the part where I think we need to be able to deliver our part of the game, whereas the rest, like I said, getting the input, figuring out what is the new policy and what are better things that we can do with the rest would be something that we prefer to do. And this is basically your whole of government approach or whole of nation approach with regards to this. Good point, very much on, I think, leveraging on NGOs and listening to the voices.
Yeah.
At least where MDEC comes from, we have not, I have to admit, we have not heard enough and engaged enough with the NGOs.
Yeah.
There's a lot more industry and associations that we have dealt with, and that is something that we can work on. And this is other areas where we can improve. On, I think, the other side, just to address a bit on the inclusivity and ensuring the have-nots are not left behind.
Yeah.
We do put a great importance in having a very digitalized society. So where we can come in and where we extend is there's that what we call the Saya Digital Tour, literally I'm Digital Tour, trying to get the public, the rakyat, the citizens to be there. Because you can have all the technologies, you can bring in all the companies to invest into Malaysia, but again, that consumer society mindset we must actually grow out of that.
Yeah.
So we are creating, the companies that MDEC creates now are being encouraged to develop, to sell, to produce for at least the ASEAN level. Otherwise, there's no point. There's only 30 plus million Malaysians that you want to sell to. And this is where we come in and where we can be a bit more critical to say that we can help as long as you build for ASEAN at least.
For ASEAN, okay.
So that is, I think, within the guise of MDEC and what we are trying to do and work with the rest of the ministries, where we encourage Malaysians and Malaysia-based companies to actually do that. So agriculture is, again, one of the examples that we can show and must show in order for us to actually build from there. So there's another set, other set of projects that we're doing with respect to this, and it is basically making up, I think, a long list of things that we want to be able to do moving forward.
So when you say go ASEAN, you encourage the the companies to venture out.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So much so that I think we have brought up a function within MDEC that normally was run very much at program level, i.e. meaning you have about 10, 15 people, to a division level, focusing very much to complement what another agency called Matrade under the Ministry of Investment.
Correct.
To export Malaysian solutions or Malaysia-based companies to other parts of the world. So that has into its second year now. We are seeing, I think, very encouraging numbers.
Okay.
And the good thing about this is that it's not about a competition between one agency to another. Rather, Matrade and us do have an agreement on how we complement each other. So the funds that are being allocated right now through Matrade to incentivize companies attending meetings or traveling or seminars and things like that are being complemented with us providing some funds for localization of solutions to whatever markets that you are selling to.
That's impressive.
So then it helps. So they don't have to spend too much to give to too many people for the same purpose.
Initiatives.
Yeah.
Okay. So far your initiatives has been focused on what kind of setting? Is that rural based or urban based farmers and companies?
Well, I would say the more than 500 sites right now are mostly, I think, made up by rural base, but there are urban based as well that we have to look at. So these are sites nominated by the what do you call that? The Pertubuhan Peladang, so the agriculture association.
Yeah.
Sorry, for each state in
I see.
Malaysia, where we ended up with that.
Okay.
We are at the tail end of that project that has run since last year. So we are looking at, again, getting the feedback, getting the accurate numbers. Those numbers, the 20%, 30% increase, 30% decrease of operating costs would be the numbers that we expect to see as an average.
Okay.
However, we need to see by state and by localities whether they are creating or we are getting the impact that we intended it to be
Okay.
or not, and then we see how we can tweak. certain
Okay.
things.
So perhaps on top of my mind also, what would be the ultimate, the ideal state that MDEC is looking for, when you incorporate all these initiatives in this transformative digitalization into the agriculture sector? What would be the ideal state that you are looking forward?
Well, for us, we subscribe to this method of initiating, scaling it up, and eventually handing it over because they can self-sustain.
Yeah,
The
correct.
government has only so much funds
Yeah.
that we can allocate, and before people will say, "Hey, what else is new?" Okay,
Yeah.
the economies and the pillars of the economy changes. The technologies that enable the businesses of yesterday and the businesses of the future would be different.
Okay.
So we cannot continue to actually fund the same things all over again. And those people cannot remain to expect the government, okay, if I don't get any incentives, if there's no new funding, I'm going to stop doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So the age part or the handing over is where we believe it is mature enough for that particular sector or that particular industry to stand on its own. And
Yeah.
the rest will be coming from facilitation and I think more
Empowerment.
high level interventions.
Okay, cool. So perhaps the last question from us, maybe we would also like to know about your United Nations goal, right, and SDG goals. So we understood that out of all the initiatives on agricultural technology, and I trust that MDEC has been very particular and very careful when you consider the intersections between your agricultural technology and also the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right? So how your programs can address all these SDG goals, and how you also address the national planetary health, and also, how to achieve all these goals alongside with your programs.
Well, if you touch on SDG 2, very much on the zero
Zero
hunger, we believe that programs such as this and other interventions look at improving agricultural productivity in general. I think the numbers so far have shown us that we are creating the impact, but it is about scaling it up.
Okay.
Second aspect is again renewable energy. This is a big topic for us because another side of MDEC
Yeah.
does the digital investments where we play a role of an investment promotion agency
Oh, okay.
as a subset to Malaysia Investment Development Authority, MIDA, that does that. But the spike has been very much on data center.
Yeah.
So Malaysia is rapidly becoming the center where all these new hyperscalers data centers are coming in,
Yeah.
consuming a lot of energy, destroying the environment as they build all these things. So we need to be able to strike a balance there. So with regards to the use of energy, I think this is a part where we are working with the Ministry of Natural Resources and to look at the use and increased use of RE or renewable energy,
Yeah.
and especially in this agriculture, we leverage quite a fair bit today on the devices or the IoT devices that we see on the boxes just now.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot more on the data center side
Okay.
to do the processing and also data analytics for us
Okay.
to do that. On the other side, 8 and 13, I think very much on the I think
Economic
workers.
growth, yeah.
Right? So again, one of the things and the reason for MDEC
Yeah.
to be around was to also augment and improve what used to be the I think the white collar society,
Yeah.
where by having MDEC around, we are creating layers and layers or different kind of jobs, which is what I think generally called for knowledge workers.
Yeah.
Eh?
The white collar.
So these are the new ones who used to be selling 30 years ago, selling computers
Yeah.
to providing solutions and creating new solutions and operating many things. So we are creating those jobs that
Okay.
may not exist maybe 10 years ago or something like that. So those would be the aspect and focusing a bit more on the climate change side.
Okay.
So there's quite a few, I think,
SDG
SDGs that
goals
we
that-
normally
yeah.
would trust,
Mhm.
would align and actually check against on the bigger scale of this thing. If I can share a bit, we also have a partnership with, I think, one branch of UN called UNGC,
Okay.
Global Compact.
Oh,
Primarily to encourage all these 4,000 plus companies, IT companies or tech companies, to start adopting
Digitalized, yeah,
ESGs
okay.
and all that.
Okay.
They are creating the solutions, but
Mm.
how do you encourage them to also be sustainable today, to be aligned with this thing? There's another part of this thing as they grow and become growth companies and going public as well. Requirements coming from Bursa,
Bursa,
which
yeah.
is the KL stock exchange,
Yeah.
insist that they have something like that
Mhm.
to raise funding.
Yeah.
So we are preparing them as they grow up. So the startups and the scale ups are at least
Okay.
more prepared now.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much. I think you have given a very clear picture, and from some of the follow-up questions, also we understood that MDEC is not only providing local solutions for the farmers and the companies, but also trying to empower them to go further out of the country, right? Okay, so perhaps for the interest of time, we will move to the last speakers of the session. Suzanne, are you still there?
I'm here. Still here, listening.
Are you still there?
I'm listening attentively.
Okay, cool. You're still with us. Okay, Suzanne, I will pass the floor to you. Perhaps you could share, after listening to Amierah, Datin, and also from Mr. Mahadhir, maybe you could also complement our session with some of your experience from the Lost Food Project. Perhaps you could start your sharing by introducing a little bit of what is the Lost Food Project and what are the activities that you have been doing, and perhaps you could also provide us some example from the international examples that, the cases that you have been working, and how can we emulate and also, try to put the very good model into to solve the local solution and also global issues, to solve the
Sure.
local and global issues.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over to you, Suzanne.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor today. I'm very excited to be here. Sorry, I'll just get rid of some of those notifications that are coming in. Yeah, I'd like to say, first of all, that every solution to do with food systems is both local and global, because the same problem is happening all over the world in every country. So it really, that's why we should all be working together. And the Lost Food Project is a Malaysian entity. We started off in KL in Malaysia, and we are now working also in Europe too, but it is ultimately a Malaysian charity, a Malaysian NGO. But all of these things are, as I say, are very scalable because the problem is the same in every single country. So the beauty about food systems is a bit like the physics of life, the laws of nature. It's all about circularity. And this is why all the problems could actually be solved if humans had the tenacity and the foresight to try and make the changes. I mean, if you can send, a man to the moon, we can solve this problem, because the problem is self-solving, really. It's just humans get in the way. Like, for example, 30 to 40% of all food is wasted. Now, the food that's wasted goes on to cause, obviously, we all know it causes methane and CO2 and other greenhouse gases. It causes a lot of damage to the planet. However, if we use that 30 to 40% of food that's currently not used, we could first of all feed people who are hungry. And there's lots of people who are food insecure and who don't have enough money in Malaysia and in every single country in the world, including Switzerland, where I am at the moment. Also, the food that doesn't feed people, that's inedible for people, is extremely edible for the soils. So much soil erosion is happening in the world today because of food overproduction. And every time you grow food, the food obviously takes the nutrition out of the soil in order for itself to grow. But unless we replenish those vitamins and the nutrients, that then the soil then becomes unusable. And this is so avoidable, because the food that we can't give to humans, we should be recycling and putting back into the soil. And at the same time, we're mitigating all the CO2 damage that is currently happening, because we're just throwing away food into the wrong place. We're throwing it into the soil, but the way that it goes into landfill, it's, you know, there's no oxygen, so it becomes this, you know, leachate, this basically this toxic poison to the soil. It goes into the waterways, it goes into the air, and it causes all sorts of damage. Whereas if we just kind of reconfigured this pathway into the circular kind of direction that it should be in, it would actually be a solution. So I think there's huge opportunities if we as a species kind of grab the reins and just try and work out what we can do to make that happen. And I think the Lost Food Project is one solution. So I'm going to give you a little bit more information about us. I'm going to try not to send everyone to sleep. I know it's the afternoon and everyone's probably tired. But you can see here's a photograph of part of our warehouse. We basically rescue food. So we do not buy any food. We only take food that is normally fit is going to be sent to landfill. And since we've been working, we've rescued 7 million kilos of surplus food. And this has provided 20 million meals for people in need. We target mainly B40s, the PPR, housing areas, as well as many different charities. And in the process, we mitigate a lot of the damage that's done, because this food is not transported all the way out into different landfills and then buried. It's given to people. And the food that we do not use, because if there's anything wrong or there's any food safety issues, we make sure the food is composted, because we believe in circularity. And we're giving to approximately 150,000 beneficiaries. It's actually every week, really. We put monthly there. But it's the same. We do it cyclical every week. We also give to over 80 charities, and we're giving to 30 different B40 communities, PPR communities. We really believe in giving to everyone, because there's enough food in the world to feed everybody, every hungry person 4 times over. So obviously the priority has to be, you know, the people on the lowest income, who are, you know, who have nutritional issues, who aren't fresh fruit and vegetables. But the other beauty about kind of food banking is that if you think logically about food in your house, what's the food that goes off first? It's the stuff in the fridge. It's the fresh fruit and vegetables. It's the meat. It's the perishable items. You know, packets of pasta and tins of tomatoes or chilies they last for a long time. So really, if you're talking about food rescue, we are actually collecting the most valuable food, the most nutritious food. So it really does make a difference to the people we're giving to, who often can only afford high sugary carbohydrate foods, sometimes 1 meal a day. So it really is a very neat solution to this problem. We currently, sorry.
Yeah, Suzanne, just a quick question, right? So from all the initiatives that you have been implemented through the Lost Food Project, right? Is there any innovative approach that you think could be widespread and to be adapted or replicated in different regions around the world that you could suggest?
Sure, of course. I mean, there are different food banks already operating around the world. We're part of the Global Food Banking Network, actually. So the Global Food Banking Network chooses 1 or 2 food banks from each country that it believes has the best practice. And we all get together at different conferences. We share ideas. We share, you know, kind of certain developments. For example, we've got a CRM digital program, which I'll talk about later, which might be of interest to MDEC. But yeah, I mean, I think in the future, food banking and circularity of food systems will become more and more interesting and more relevant. I mean, what I find really sad, actually, and ironic, is that food banking is hugely popular in, you know, in the West, in America, in Europe, in Australia, and in places like, well, certainly the lowest income countries, you know, the Bangladeshs of the world, the Indias of the world, many of the African countries. you know, there's very, very little food banking, which is sad because every country in the world has a huge amount of food waste. So, but yes, I do agree that, you know, this will be, you know, become more and more relevant and prevalent around the world because it is such an obvious, logical kind of solution to a massive problem. So, and in terms of, yeah, we were saying about the scalability. I mean, we are already working, we're hoping to start very soon in Perak, and we have an an electronic application we're actually working with Sunway to make have an e-platform. So this can be across, you know, both Peninsula and also on Sabah and the other side, so that it can be in remote areas. Because obviously we want to maximize food rescue and minimize environmental damage. We are, as I said before, we're also working in Europe as well. So that just shows you that it's applicable to kind of all different, you know, formats, all different landscapes. Our as I said here, you can see in the picture, this is the launch of our warehouse. Our royal patron is Tunku Zara of Perak, and our esteemed patron is Tantri Jamila, who I'm sure many of you know from some way. Yeah, we're really, like the majority of food banks around the world, we're really made up of a lot of volunteers. And this is what makes, I think, food banking so interesting, because we are so cheap. You know, I have to say, some food banks do buy food. You know, that's been the kind of historical, if you look at kind of the modus operandum of many food banks around the world, they buy food. They've got lots of little small groups that go and buy food to help people in need, whereas we're much more environmentally focused. But it makes us so much cheaper because, you know, for example, I know that the government have to spend, you know, billions literally on food subsidies. But the government is buying the food, okay, maybe at cost price or at low price, but we get food for free. So the way that we work is actually more efficient and cheaper because we basically save companies their disposal costs. So we get the food for free. So that makes us, our SROI is very high because the only thing that we're paying for are our logistics. So we're effectively a logistical kind of operation.
All right. So thanks so much, Suzanne. I think I'm sorry I have to cut you off here because I think we are already running out of time. But I trust that Suzanne, you have been sharing a lot of very good, the good side of having food bank. And also it's important for us to really look into the need of having food bank because it's very low cost. And there is also need for a lot of addressing agri-food, right? We call it agri-food. And nowadays we also already have some we call it food waste market already in Klang Valley. So thanks a lot, Suzanne. I think I trust that you have more to share, but I think we will talk more in some other time. And perhaps we would like to come to an end for our session. And we are supposed to have another round of Q&A, but I think we will skip that. And perhaps we will straight jump into a very quick closing remark from all of us. Again, to answer the objective of this session, we would like to amplify local solution to address global issue. So maybe a quick one from each of you, a closing remark for our session today. Yeah, starting from maybe Amierah first.
Sure. I think the simplest thing for us to think about is to start small and to not work alone.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't work in silos. It never works.
Correct. I think it's true. Okay. Maybe Datin or Mr. Mahadhir?
Well, I go back to what I said earlier. There's a lot that to be explored using digital. So again, like you said, working through partnerships and things like that, or how we normally would say it, just leverage on others as well to be able to do what we want to do. It's a collective effort.
True.
Yeah, I echoed what the other colleagues
Yeah.
have mentioned, and I very much look forward to formulating the 13 Malaysia plan, which
Mm.
we will further incorporate all those ideas into the plan. Yeah.
Thank you, Datin. And lastly, Suzanne, you have any precise and short and sweet closing remark for the audience here?
Yeah, I just think that it is all about working together. I mean, governments can't do this on their own, neither can
Yeah.
corporates. NGOs need support, and the general public also have their role to play. And I think that if we don't all work together, then we're not going to have any solutions, basically.
Okay, cool. So I think it's pretty clear. We are all agree that multilateral cooperation and partnership among not only the top down, but also we have to go bottom up approach, right? So thank you very much again for our speakers. I know it's a afternoon session and it's not we have more audience going out, but thank you for standing towards the end, and we wish to speak more some other time. Yeah. Thank you so much to the audience, and see you again. Thank you so much.